Right, let's start today's session. And this is the first session of your Django. So this session is completely related to Django framework plus REST API framework plus FLASK framework and along with the projects. Okay. So this session is completely related to Django framework, REST API framework, and then FLASK framework. Totally in this batch, I'm going to cover three frameworks. These three frameworks are related to Python based framework: Django, REST API, Flask. These frameworks I'm going to cover uh, in this batch actually. So this batch is completely related to Django. One subject I'm going to cover, REST API, other subject I'm going to cover, and the Flask, this is other subject along with the projects. So totally, if you enroll for this session, you are going to learn three frameworks like Django, REST API, Flask. And make sure that if you want to continue with these sessions, before going to continue these sessions like Django, REST API, Flask, you must aware of Python language. Who are already knows about Python, like complete core and advanced Python. So at least you must have the knowledge of Python basics like data structures, functions, object-oriented programming, all these modules. These are the main topics. If you understand like modules of Python, object-oriented programming of Python, and how to deal with class programming and object-oriented programming, and how to deal with looping concept like for loop, while loop, conditional statement like if, else, nested if, elif, and how to handle with especially data structures like list, tuple, set, string, all those things, then you just go with Django REST API Flask framework. I'm telling you once again, if you don't know about Python, if you are new to this session, better to avoid these sessions because these sessions are especially who completed their Python programming language. Okay, here some of my students are there who completed recently their Python course. They are moving towards Django web development purpose. So I'm just conducting these sessions for them, and who are new to this session, you should be complete your Python course already, then you are eligible to attend these sessions. So ultimately what my intention is to say that if you want to attend these sessions like Django framework, REST API framework, Flask framework, you must have the Python knowledge. If you don't have Python knowledge, it's a waste of time to attend these sessions. I'm saying straightforward. Okay. So, but in these sessions, from today onwards, I'm going to focus completely on these three frameworks: Django framework, REST API framework, Flask framework. Make sure that these three frameworks are completely written in Python language. That's what to learn these three framework. Python is a prerequisite programming language. You must and should understand Python first. Okay. So first we'll talk about here Django, why, REST API, why, and Flask, what purpose. Okay. So three frameworks we are going to focus now. Yes. So mainly in the initial days of this course, we are going to conduct Django sessions. Once we complete Django, then we will be starts with REST API. After that, finally, what? Flask framework. Total three frameworks we are going to learn. So these three are completely Python-based frameworks, no doubt at all. Okay, these three frameworks are implemented with Python language. That's what I'm saying, that these are completely Python-based framework. I'll explain you what is these frameworks actually. Okay, so Django. First of all, I need to discuss about Django. So what is Django? Django is a framework. Django is a framework which is used to develop. Django is a framework which is used to develop, web applications. Yes, I said already in the introduction of Python programming language about Django. Django is a framework which is used to develop the web applications. You know very well about web application, the application which will provide services over the web or over the internet is called web application. Okay. So in Python full stack development, if you want to develop any website or web application, you must and should aware of the Django framework. It's completely framework. It's not a programming language. So what is framework is nothing but it's a library. Framework is nothing but collection of libraries. So whenever the moment we install Django framework in our computer, so you will be able to get plenty of built-in classes. All the classes are having predefined methods and predefined implementation. That means you have to use directly those libraries, which is helpful to build your web application. So Django is a framework which is used to develop web application. And I'm saying that Django framework is completely written in Python. Django is completely written in Python language. Written in Python language. That's what I'm asking you. Before going to move to these sessions, you must aware of Python coding. So without the knowledge of Python coding, you cannot move towards Django because this framework is completely written in Python language. If we pass the instructions using Python language, then only Django framework can understand. So before going to develop web application with the Django framework, you should pass the instruction with Python only. Then it can understand. So that you must familiar with Python language before going to develop Django applications. It's okay. So using Django, we can build web applications with Python prior knowledge. But what about REST API? Yes. So obviously, I'll teach you REST API after completion of Django only. But I'm telling you here, this batch is completely belongs to 3 frameworks. So you must aware of that these 3 frameworks, why it is. So REST API is nothing but what? It is also a framework. Yes, obviously. REST API is also a framework. Okay. What is this REST API purpose means? REST API is a framework which is used to develop or which is used to create APIs. APIs. So in reality, you know that the API importance. Suppose in our daily life, we are going to use many applications. Okay, online applications, especially I'm talking about that. But in the context of using online applications, so how the API will play the important role, you know. So API stands for Application Programming Interface. Yes, Application Programming Interface. But what is REST stands for, you know? Yes, REST is an architectural pattern. REST stands for Representational State Transfer. This is called REST. So the APIs which are going to be developed using REST architecture is called REST API. So ultimately in Django web application development, if you want to create APIs for your web application, then we use an architecture called REST architecture. Simply, I can say the APIs which is going to design and develop by using REST architecture is called REST API. So API stands for Application Programming Interface. REST stands for Representational State Transfer. Not only here in Python full stack development, even Java full stack development people, .NET full stack development programmers, they use APIs, but according to their frameworks, they are having different subjects. For example, Java programmers, they use a subject called RESTful APIs or REST APIs. .NET programmers, they use a subject called Web API. But in our Django, we can call it as REST API. So REST is an architectural pattern. The API which is used to develop by using REST architecture is called REST API. So first of all, you have to understand the purpose of API. See, listen carefully. API is a software tool. API is a software tool. Exactly. It is a software tool which is used to communicate, between two or more applications. If you want to make the communication between two or more applications, generally we use an API software tool. Sir, why the application should communicate with two or more applications? Yes, it's common, because in reality, the moment when we start doing any transactions with any applications, even like banking applications, or else you can assume that Flipkart application is there, Swiggy app is there, Zomato app is there. So many apps we are going to use in our daily life or day-by-day activities. So the moment when we go with any application, that application, for example, assume that I want to order a food in Swiggy app. So after that, making the order of my food, then I need to make the payment. For making the payment, the Swiggy app through, I need to send request to my bank application to do payment. So how the Swiggy app can able to communicate with your concerned banking application? That's possible with APIs only. So the request goes from Swiggy app to banking API. The API will send the request to banking server. The server will give response to banking API. The API will give confirmation to your app from where you are sending requests like Swiggy app. So without making or establish the communication between two or more applications, we can't perform any transactions in reality. So using Django purely, we can develop web application. But once you are ready with your web application, but ultimate goal is to develop web application is what? We can provide services to your targeted customer. But customers, they can use your web application, but while using the web application for fulfilling their transactions, they want to communicate with other applications which need to be make the payment. So that communication is required compulsory. So for that communication purpose, we have to generate what? API also for your web application. That's what for Django web applications, if you want to generate APIs, we use a subject called REST API. Ultimately, I'm saying you that most of the students will learn only Django, okay? But they might ignore to learn REST API, okay? So most of the faculty also who teach complete Python full stack development subject, they try to ignore the REST API. Even they'll teach only REST API within 2 or 3 sessions. Okay. So that is API generation. Simple examples they used to conduct, but it's not good enough, because even in our session, we are going to concentrate only on REST API. 20 to 30 days sessions we will conduct on API generations. There are a lot of scopes to discuss the API generations. Okay. But actually, that's what I included to cover this Django, REST API, FLASK framework. I'm taking 3 months of duration. Why? Because most of the time we are going to spend with the Django web application development, but at the same time, we need to spend more focus on REST API also for how the Django can communicate with other application. There is some testing of API also there in our project implementation. We are going to include how to test your API with normal testing, like manual testing, automation testing of API also. I have included in this curriculum. That's what I have announced the batch with the Django REST API Flask for 3 months duration. So you should have the patience to attend these sessions compulsory because it's completely web development process. Obviously, it will take time to finish it. But more patience and more knowledge and more information you will get undoubtedly. Okay. So API is very important. It is a software tool which is used to communicate between two or more applications. So if you want to learn REST API subject, the prerequisite subject is undoubtedly Django. Without Django knowledge, you can't go with REST API. Why? Because I'm saying you, REST API is just nothing but like web services. We are providing web services. Generally, web services we need to provide for what? Web application. But if you don't have really web application with your Django with Python, then for what we need to create API? Waste of time. So once you are ready with your Django web application, for that Django web application, do you want to create API like web services? Then we can use REST API subject. Web services is nothing but it is a service can be provided for Django web application to make the communication to other application. That's what we can call it as REST API services. Okay. And Flask is completely extremely new framework. Okay. To learn Flask, no need to have the idea about REST API as well as Django. It's completely new framework. So it is completely Python based framework. Even REST API also Python based framework. I'm saying one conclusion here. Django, REST API, Flask, all three frameworks are completely implemented or written in Python language only. For all these three frameworks, if you want to learn, you must have the Python knowledge compulsory. Without having Python knowledge, you can't move to this framework. Waste of time to attend. Okay. So who are new to this session, if you don't have already Python knowledge, better to drop. Don't continue. Waste of time and waste of money also. So Flask is a framework. Yes, Flask is a framework. It's completely Python based framework. You know that Flask is a framework which is used to develop the micro services programming. If you want to generate microservices programming applications, then we can develop using microservices applications. We can develop using Flask only. And Flask is a Python-based framework. Flask is a Python-based framework. So I'm saying that to learn Flask framework, you need only what? Python enough. No other subjects. Like Django REST API is not required. So to learn Flask, only Python is enough. So using Flask also, we can develop web application. That two single page applications we can develop. Using Flask framework, we can develop mostly single page applications. Single page web applications we can develop. Yes. Single page web applications we can develop using Flask. So to learn Flask, only Python is enough. To learn REST API, compulsory Django and Python both are required. To learn Django, Python is required. So this is the order of the way of learning in Python full stack course. Okay, you people know that already. So our main target is for first 45 days. I said complete 3 frameworks covering purpose. I am taking 3 months. So first 45 days, I'll fully focus on Django. Next 20 to 25 days, I'll fully focus on REST API. After rest of the time, we focus on Flask. So totally to cover all these frameworks, we will take 3 months duration time. But in the process of covering all these subjects like Django, REST API, Flask framework, in the middle, we will be covered also UI basics. Yes. So UI basics, UI technologies basics compulsory we are going to cover. So UI basics means already you know that what are that UI technologies means HTML basics we will cover, CSS, JavaScript, jQuery basics will be covered, and the bootstrap basics also will cover. How much it's required to implement your web application with Django, REST API, Flask, that much content we will be covered in the UI technologies. And also, will be able to get MySQL and also SQLite 3 basics. Yes, SQLite 3. So generally, the moment when we configure the Django web application, so the built-in database is SQLite 3 only. Okay, so when we download and install Django framework, for the first time when we create a Django project, so you will be able to see the SQLite 3 database integrated with the Django framework. But almost all the things we can able to manage with the SQLite 3 database only. But in case, most of the cases in reality, if the programmer wants to manage their database with MySQL, they can go with MySQL also. I'll also teach you MySQL configuration along with the Django framework. Ultimately, you are going to learn database basic knowledge, UI technologies basic knowledge, and how to ultimately develop the web application using Django framework, APIs, and Flask. And along with these subjects covering, we will develop in the classroom itself 2 to 3 real-time projects. Real-time projects means not really can be used in reality. So with real-time scenario or real-time perceptions and real-time logics, once you get a job where your code is going to be involved actually logically, that concept by covering, we will implement 2 to 3 projects we will be covered with respect of Django. That project code and complete material and everyday session recorded videos, we will be hand over it to you completely with Google Drive access. Okay, no need to worry about these things clearly. But only the thing is from your end, I'm expecting you just attend regular sessions and you just be practice at least 1 hour per day. It's good enough. See, the thing is, previously, who are my students here who are attending now this session? So you people almost have observed from last 2 to 3 months, which I conducted your only Python core and advanced sessions. So that was very well. And that was very simple logic and the straightforward logic was there. But when it comes to Python, Django framework, so it's not that much easy what you feel about Python, because completely we are in focus in Django web development process. In web development process as a programmer, you must involve in 3 different layers, not in one location. If it is Python, I can say it's very simple. Everybody can learn it. Everybody can understand it because when we open PyCharm, there will be a file. You can write how much code you want. You can try to execute and you will get output. That's enough. But make sure that in Django web application development, from your side, concentration will be more and patience should required. Okay. And you have to feel free to solve your errors. Otherwise, you will get complete irritation while learning Django or while practicing Django. I'm giving clear instructions. So you will keep in your mind these instructions while practicing that. So you will remember these instructions, what I'm telling truly. Okay, I'm not telling unnecessarily because the subjects of Django, REST API, Flask is completely dry subjects. It's not fair enough what we feel in Python. It's completely little bit tricky. But once you understand the flow of Django execution, then you feel completely comfortable, undoubtedly. That's what I'm requesting you. Don't give up, at least for 1 week or 10 days of these sessions. Be patient. The things will go normal. Okay. So why? Because I'm telling you, this is completely web development process. Any person can feel that in web development process, some types of struggle, because in web development process, only one layer is not enough. We will focus on different layers like that. Okay. That's what all the layers code you have to manage as a one person. If any one layer is having some mistakes, other layers will not perform as we expect. That's the problem, especially in the learning process of Django. Okay, I hope you understand that. So completely my focus is from now onwards Django for 45 days to 50 days. In the Django process, first 4 to 5 days complete Django only we will focus because we need to do setup and installation and everything. After understanding of basics of Django, we will be focused completely next to 1 week. Okay, 6 to 7 or 10 sessions, 10 sessions maximum. We will be focused on HTML, CSS, JavaScript, jQuery, Bootstrap. Once you know how to handle with the UI, then after that we will again shift into Django development. So ultimately we will be focused 1.5 months in Django. After that we will go with REST API and API and FLASK framework also. Okay. So right now in front of me, I need to tell you about Django only. So about Django, I'm going to speak now. So as I said that Django is a web application framework. Yes, completely. So Django is a web application framework. This framework can be used to build web applications only. So web application means the application which will provide services over the web is called web application. The application which will provide services over the web is called web application. And using Django, we can develop web application, and Django is completely written in Python programming language. Okay. And by using Django framework, we can develop web application rapidly. Rapidly means very faster rate we can develop web applications using Django. Because the moment when we install Django framework, you will get plenty of libraries. So even I can say Django is a high level. Yes, like same Python is a high level, no? So Django framework is also completely high level and open source. Open source means completely the source code of Django is completely open to anyone. You can get it from official website. What is the official website of Django also I'll disclose in this session. So Django is a high level and open source Python based framework. Django is a high level and open source Python based framework. I can say that. It's completely Python based framework. And Django is having the clear documentation. And also in Django, we will follow the principle called DRY. You know, even in Python also, we will follow this principle. That means do not repeat yourself. Do not repeat yourself. These principles we are going to follow in Django. Instead of repeating the logic, so we are going to reuse the logic. That is our main motto of Django purpose. And most important thing is what, you know, the official website of Django is www.djangoproject.com. Djangoproject.com. So you know that official website of Python, www.python.org. And why I'm telling you this, you know, before going to install or set up Django, you must and should check in your system whether Python is there or not. Once you have Python software in your laptop or computer, then we can go with Django steps. So the official website of Python is python.org, and the official website of Django is djangoproject.com website. If you look at into djangoproject.com website, just I'm moving towards here. So you can see this is the official website of djangoproject.com website, and you will be able to see this Django official version right now. Latest version is 5.0.6. And below there is a link called Django documentation also. You can click on this documentation. You'll be able to find more options are there. Look at this documentation, model layer, view layer, template layer, forms are there, admin panel, security, lot of things are there in Django. So if you are already well known in the web development application, you can feel free to visit this official website of Django. If you can able to understand, you can start development of your web application. But if you are new to Django, if you go through this website, you can't really understand what they are saying. That's what here we are as a trainer to make the things or simplification. So this is the official website of djangoproject.com. For every subject, there is an official website. Okay. And look at this. What is the history of Django? I'm saying that it's completely web application framework. It's completely related to Python only, high level and open source and Python based framework. To develop web application, anyone with a Django, no need to do any license. Directly, you can visit official website and download it and install it. So who designed Django? The history I would like to explain, just basic information. Even in the reality, no one will ask you these all information, but just I'm telling you the basic information. See, Django was designed and developed by Lawrence Journal World in the year of 2003. And the Django completely publicly announced in BSD license. That means Berkeley Source Distribution. Okay, BSD means Berkeley Source Distribution license in the year of July 2001. Sorry, 2005. Okay, so the official date of birth of Django is July 21st, 2005. You know, Python, it was 1989 and announced by 1989 in the year of 1989, but released in 1991. But Django is completely July 21st and 2005, publicly released. Once again, I'm telling you, Django was designed and developed by Lawrence Journal in the Lawrence Journal World in the 2003 and publicly released under Berkeley Source Distribution in July 21st, 2005. The original authors of Django are what, you know? There are two authors are there. So that authors are Adrian Halavati, yes, and Simon Willison. These two are the main authors of Django, Simon Willison. But even though these two are the main authors, but right now the Django is completely maintained by DSF. Yes, DSF in the sense Django Software Foundation. How we have PSF, Python Software Foundation. So right now completely Django is maintained by DSF, Django Software Foundation. Yes, Django Software Foundation. So it's maintained by this foundation only. So these foundation people usually release their, what we can say, versions and updations. We will get all the updations and versions, whatever the latest version or updations will come from DSF, Django Software Foundation only. And even Django pronounced it as Django. Most of the programmers, we used to say what? Django or Django. D is the silent. Actually, Django is the name of the person. Yes, obviously. Django is a name of George guitarist called as Django Reinhardt. You can see if we go to search in Google, just I'm trying to say Django Reinhardt. He is the famous George guitarist. You can see this. Django Reinhardt. The authors given the name of the famous George guitarist for their framework name. So that's what the name, we can call it as Django. So you can also call it as Django or Django. Anyone we can say that, no problem. So www.djangoproject.com is official website. Okay. And there are important features also there, but later I'll explain that is theoretically. But before going to features of Django, you must understand one important thing, sir. Django is completely based on one pattern that is mainly we are going to follow, that is MVT pattern. So this MVT pattern only throughout the Django lecture, we are going to follow that. So what is MVT pattern? You must understand that. So in MVT pattern, M stands for, first of all, model. Okay. So this is nothing but data access layer. So there are three layers are there in the web development process in any application. So the moment when we go with any web application development, there are three layer architecture is there. So sometimes according to the Java or .NET, we can say MVC pattern, model view control. But when it comes to Django, we can go with MVT pattern. So M stands for model. It represents data access layer. That means completely it related to what? Database. Yes, we are focusing on completely database. That is what? Model. V means what? V stands for view. It's nothing but completely business access layer. Yes, this is business access layer. It's completely related to what? Python logic. Python logic. T means what? Template. Template. Template means presentation layer, we can say that. Presentation layer. So it's completely UI, like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, all UI technologies we are going to use for template designing. So remember that in our Django web application development, in every day, we need to focus on model, we need to focus on view, we need to focus on template. All three we must coordinate. Yes. So that is what Django development. That's it. Once you understand the flow of model, view, template, and it's very easy to implement Django websites. Okay, because most of the libraries will come in the context of model, view, template, but you have to use it. But if you know Python, you will come to know that how to use it. So complete Django web development is depend on this pattern only, sir. MVT pattern. M for model, V for view, T for template. But most of the people will think that view is nothing but presentation layer, but not. View is nothing but completely logic. So using model, we can prepare database. Completely, the model is represent what? Database. Tables. We can store the information into the tables like that. View is nothing but what? Python logic. So already Python, we can able to write complete logic. And template is nothing but what? Presentation layer, UI technologies. So all three together we have to work. That's called what? MVT pattern. So you need to manage your model like database. You need to manage your Python logic like view, and you need to design web page by using UI technologies, that is presentation layer. Let me show you that. There is an architecture diagram is there. So our regular process will be depend on this diagram completely. You can see it. So forget about user request, forget about Django server, forget about URLs. I'll talk about these three later when I start coding part. But meanwhile, you need to understand these three only. So look at this. While observing this diagram, you notice one thing. Model, that means database. Template, that means UI, can never interact with each other. If they want to interact with each other, they must consult with what? View only. So View is the main hero of Django web development. Yes, obviously. See, one more important thing I'm telling you. In this MVT architecture, MVT, so daily we will do two operations majorly. One operation is either you can send the data to the database or you can get the data from database. Already sending the data from user to database is called nothing but what? Inserting the data. Or else getting the data from database means what? Reading. So generally we can do writing as well as reading. Writing means what? We can send the data. Reading means what? We can read through the data. These two only general, in reality also we can do that. So ultimately what I'm saying, this is the template. Template, how we can define using UI technologies. UI technologies means what? Using HTML, CSS, JavaScript, jQuery, Bootstrap. We are ready with the complete design. User interface. User interface means we can accept the values from the user. That is in presentation layer. That means template. The moment when we open any website, first of all, you will get a presentation layer only. That is UI. There we can enter the details. That details, after entering, when we click on submit button in the HTML page, that details will go to where? View. View is nothing but what according to MVT pattern? Python logic. So using Python logic, the details which is entered in the template, the correct details or not, it will check. And after completion of checking, once view decided that user inputs are correct, the view can able to send the data to the model only. So model is nothing but what? Database. Okay. Yes. So this process is nothing but what? Taking input values from the template and sending the input values to the view like Python logic. Python logic can take the input values from the template and perform the validations if it is required. If it is valid data, the view will send it to the model. Model means database. This is inserting. But not only inserting, no, all the time when we use web application, sometimes we can retrieve the data from web application also. That means what? In that process, so the model data template we need to display. The model data ultimately we need to bring. Right now data is there in database, but ultimately we need to display that data to the user in presentation layer, that is template. For that, getting the data from model, template doesn't interact with model. So rather than template will send a request to where? View. The view is going to take request from the template, that means end user or customer from the form, and the view will send the same request to the model, what end user is expecting, and it will bring the data from model and keep in the view. That view is delivered in a response to the template. Ultimately, we are going to see that data into template only. So only these two actions we can do in everywhere in real-time web application also. Either we can send the data to the server or we can get the data from server. So one thing I can say is clearly in this MVT architecture, model and template, that means database and UI cannot communicate with each other. There is no link. If they want to communicate with each other, they should communicate via view only. That's what I'm saying. View is the main hero in complete MVT architecture. The view is nothing but what? Python logic. Suppose if we are ready with UI, that means design you are ready. You're making complete design. You're ready with the database. But without logic, can we make any transactions? No use. Compulsory logic will play the role. That logic we have to written in completely Python language. Why? Because Django is implemented in Python. So this is complete and just a basic overview of this Django REST API Flask framework and what is MVT architecture and Django basic history. That's all. So this is, you can consider it, this is the first session as your demo session. And tomorrow onwards, we will focus completely on Django for next 45 days to 50 days. After that, we'll go for REST API and Flask. And don't miss the sessions tomorrow because it's very important. The installation portion we will be include. The installation is very important in Django project development. If you miss one session, the next session you cannot understand. That's my instruction I'm giving. So you have to attend regular session, then only the flow will be understood. Otherwise, at least if you miss the session, you have to watch the video previously. What I send after session complete anyway, I'll send the video. No, you must watch the video and you can join the session. That will be clear. So this is from my side today. If you have any questions related to this session in the web development of Django, you can feel free to ask me now. So here some students are extremely new. Mr. Raju and Abdul Rahman, MB and Krishna, like that. But rest of them, most of the people are my students only who are following me from last 2 to 3 months, which they are attending Python. Do you have any questions?
Yes, sir. Hi.
Yeah, you can proceed.
Yes. I'm just curious. I would like to know what kind of project are we gonna develop with
Can you
this
speak
Django?
loud?
Yes, I was just curious, like uh, like you said, we're gonna develop three projects or two. So I would like to know what kind of project are we gonna develop with Django?
What kind of projects? Means completely web related projects only. That is how to upload your profile and how to upload your images, how to download the profiles, and how to manage with the operations with the database related stuff into MySQL against MySQL, SQL 3 against like that.
Okay. Okay.
I have one more doubt, sir.
Yeah.
So I have working experience in Python development, but I don't even know the basics of UI. Do you want me to learn them before you explain anything?
Yeah, that's what UI basics and MySQL and SQL 3 basics. It's a part of Django development only.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, it's included part.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that's all from my side today. Have a nice time. So see you tomorrow. At least don't miss the demo sessions. After that, you can take the decision whether you want to continue the sessions or not. So because you can't see one session to go with the this Django things. So at least you have to attend 3-4 sessions, then you can decide it. So MongoDB is not required, Mr. Neeraj, because we will focus on MySQL and SQL 3, but it doesn't mean that Python and Django cannot interact with MongoDB. You can use any DB, depends on the criteria. But most of the cases for Python full stack development process, in reality, they prefer MySQL. See, there are a lot of databases are there, undoubtedly. The combination is very important, you know. Generally, Java full stack developers, they use Oracle as their backend, especially database. And .NET programmers, they use generally Microsoft SQL Server. So I recommend for Django developer like MySQL or SQL 3. But ultimately, you can use any database, no doubt at all. It depends on the situation.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, one more question from my side. Well, with Python, Django, and REST API, it's a complete full stack development with Python. Can I cover that complete package of full stack development with Python?
Come again.
Uh, like I just want to complete the full stack development with Python. So
Okay, you have completed, I think, Python, no?
yes, I have completed
Yes.
Python advanced.
Now you are looking into, yeah, this session is completely frameworks, Python related frameworks. You are going to be finished like Django, REST API, FLASK along with the basics of UI and MySQL that you can claim in your resume. I'm a Python full stack developer.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Undoubtedly. Yeah, that's all from my side. Yeah, proceed.
So I am using more than one database for the web application.
Can you speak loud, Mr. Rahman? Who are speaking? I don't know actually. Can you please, can you speak loud? Can you say it loud, please?
Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you.
So what I was about to ask is it required to use one database for the web application purpose in Django? Like,
Please come again, man.
what I'm asking is it required to use more than one database for the web application purpose? Like,
No, not required. Okay, one database knowledge is enough to manage with any database because SQL is the main part, no? Structured query language. So once you know the structured query line-based things, so you can easily manage with any database structure. Small changes will be there.
MySQL and SQL are completely similar, right?
Mostly similar, but main target, see, if you use any database, target is one thing to store the data, but based upon the MySQL or SQL 3 or Oracle or Microsoft SQL Server, some slight syntactical changes are there. That's all. Only syntactical differences are there, but main motto is same. If you use any database.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that's all, guys. See you tomorrow. Have a nice time. You can use same link for next few days. Not a problem. But take minimum 3 to 4 demo sessions, then you can decide it.